What's up guys, my name is Ace, and yesterday, October 24th, we had an update to Black Ops 4. This was a playlist update, so it kind of slipped under the radar, but there were actual gameplay changes within this. And today, I'm going to be going over this. Keep in mind, throughout the entire life cycle of the game, anytime something that directly affects gameplay is changed or balanced, especially when we're looking at weapon balance, I will be doing a video on it, and it will be going into a separate playlist. Also with this, anytime something changes, I always try to do a before and after sort of thing, but that's not always possible because I don't always have before footage, especially this early on in the game's life cycle. But let's start going through yesterday's update. So the first thing we saw is just general stability improvements across multiplayer, blackout, and zombies. Now, we don't have all the details on this, but this should lead to fewer situations where you're crashing or dropping frames. Also, the day before this, in a hotfix, I just wanted to point out that the servers, at least in a bunch of the regions, I don't know if it was every region yet, the servers are now running at a 30 Hz tick rate instead of 20. So they are making the incremental improvements to that like they said they would, and this is really good to see. I just hope they keep pushing this so we get up to 60 fairly soon. Now for multiplayer, we actually saw a few adjustments to score streaks. The Thresher fire rate and projectile speed was increased. This means that in general, this streak should be killing a little bit faster and more consistently as it does its strafing runs. Unfortunately, I didn't have any pre-patch footage here, but I did record just against some bots here so you can see the potential of the Thresher and just how fast it's coming in, how fast projectiles hit. So you guys can kind of see that in the background as we're going through this. Next up, we have the Sniper's Nest. This one got an increase to the fire rate and duration. Now for the duration, from the moment that you call a Sniper's Nest in till the moment that it starts leaving the map, pre-patch was 1 minute and 5 seconds. Keep in mind that for that full minute 5 seconds, you're not actually getting kills because it does take about 10 seconds or so just for the Sniper's Nest to get onto the map to a position where it can get kills. But pre-patch, it was 1 minute 5 seconds before it left. Now it's 1 minute 20 seconds. So with the Sniper's Nest, it stays up for a very, very long time when it comes to score streaks at 1 minute 20 seconds post-patch. As for the rate of fire, it's better to just let you guys listen, I guess. I managed to pull a game I got a while back with a Sniper's Nest, and you can hear in the background when the Sniper's Nest is shooting. And I'll let that clip play first, and then the second clip is me against bots, and you can see how fast it's shooting afterwards. Keep in mind with the fire rate, it's hard to calculate because there's actually 2 snipers within a Sniper's Nest, and I think they each have their own cooldown time, but these are individual cooldown times. So it is kind of hard to test the exact numbers, but you can just kind of hear it for yourself.
Scanning for targets.
Sighted.
Sniper's Nest is taking hits. Where is maneuvering? Target has been incapacitated.
Immediate incapacitation.
So next up within multiplayer, we got a slight reduction to the acoustic sensor's detection range. So that's that sort of 6th sense perk that you get when you use the acoustic sensor gear. Unfortunately, I don't have any pre-patch testing for you guys, but I can show you what it currently is after this patch. As you can see, this is exactly how far away you have to be in order to be picked up on the acoustic sensor. And that's pretty much it for regular multiplayer. Of course, there's a few like bug fixes and stuff mixed in there, but I generally don't cover all of those little minor details that you probably would never notice anyways. I more so try to focus on the things that actually affect gameplay. Now let's move on to Blackout. We had one really key change to Blackout, and I'm really liking the direction this is going with the NineBang, which is absolutely the most powerful piece of equipment in Blackout, or at least it was. I still think it is one of the most powerful. Instead of being able to stack 2 for 1 inventory slot, now 1 NineBang will take up an entire inventory slot. So if you're carrying 2 NineBangs, that will now take up 2 inventory slots. This also applies to cluster grenades. You can't stack those anymore either. And I think this was a great step in the right direction. That way you can't have like a ton of NineBangs saved up in multiple inventory slots and you could just spam them constantly. They will take up a separate inventory slot. In addition to this for the NineBang, they increased the charge time in Blackout, so when you're trying to charge it up so you get the full effect of the NineBang, it's going to take a little bit longer now than it would before, so you do have to think a little bit more about when you're going to be throwing that NineBang if you want to get the full potential out of it. And finally, they increased the fuse time before detonation on the NineBang, and this is something I actually noticed before these patch notes came out last night when we were playing some Blackout. After you throw the NineBang, it hits the ground and it kind of sits there for about 2 seconds and then it goes off. So there is possibly a little bit of time to get away from it if you see that somebody's throwing it at you. You can also hear it when equipment lands next to you. That might give you a little bit of time at least to get around a corner or try and get away from it to lessen the effects of that NineBang. So Definitely a step in the right direction. As for whether or not it's enough, we'll have to wait and see. We need some more playtime with this. But I really like that they made those adjustments to NineBangs for Blackout. Also in Blackout, we got a pretty massive reduction to the duration of Dead Silence. When you activate Dead Silence, pre-patch, Dead Silence would last for 240 seconds, or at least that's the data that I have from the beta build of the game. I don't know if they changed that for the launch build, but that's the most recent data I have on hand, was 240 seconds it would last for. Now, after this patch, they cut that in half so it only lasts 120 seconds, so 2 minutes. And this is designed to match the awareness perk. Now, as much as I love using Dead Silence in Blackout, I think this is possibly a good change as well, so not everybody has Dead Silence running for a really long time towards the end of matches especially. And I feel like it makes you think just a little bit more tactically about when you want to deploy that Dead Silence, and it won't last for like the entire end game for you unless you activate it at the right time. Now, aside from this, with this update, there was a bunch of other bug fixes and things like that. I will leave a link to the patch notes down below, of course, if you want to check out all those individual things. But so far, I have covered everything that relates to actual gameplay. I also want to point out that they mentioned with this update that next week we're going to have our first big weapon balancing update, because so far we haven't had any real weapon balancing updates since launch. So we can expect to see that next week, and I will be covering every single one of those details. So make sure you stay subscribed to the channel if you want to catch those. Also, they mentioned that they are aware that custom class 8 and up, these classes aren't working. A lot of you guys have noticed this if you're Prestige 2. If you make a custom class in Create a Class slot 8, 9, 10, and so on, when you select that class in game, it will just default to your first Create a Class slot. So those slots are just not working at this point. They're aware of that, and they're looking to have that fixed with the upcoming title update next week. So that's pretty much it. That's going to wrap it up for this update. It was actually a fairly big update considering it wasn't a full-on title update where you had to download like a 1 GB file or anything. It was just a hotfix as far as I'm aware, at least. I didn't see any updates. But of course, I'd like to know in the comment section below, what do you guys think about these changes? First off, the Scorestreak changes in multiplayer, the changes to Acoustic sensor, as well as those individual Blackout changes. Do you think they were good changes, bad changes, or somewhere in between? Let me know your thoughts down below. If you enjoyed the video, a like rating is always appreciated, and don't forget to subscribe for more if you haven't already. I'll talk to you guys next time.
Yeah.